death from firearms remains the leading cause of death among children in the United States and reached record highs in 2021. That's according to a study released Monday by the American Academy of Pediatrics. According to the study, there were 4,752 deaths from firearms involving children in 2021, which is a rate of 5.8% per 100,000 people. It is an 8.8% increase from 2020. In 2021, 64.3% of gun-related deaths involving children were homicides, 29.9% were suicides, and 3.5% resulted from unintentional injury. The study also shows nearly 85% of the deaths in 2021 were males. The death rate was 11 times higher for Black children compared with white children, but that's according to the study. It is the largest disparity since the study was started 4 years ago. A pediatric trauma surgeon at Northwell Health in New York and the lead author of the study, Dr. Chetan Sathi, said the most likely reason that a child will die in the U.S. is at the hands of a firearm. The study says there was a 12.4% increase in the firearm homicide rate among Black children from 2020 to 2021 and a 13.3% increase in multiracial firearm homicides. The study also added that white children account for 78.4% of all firearm suicide deaths, while Black children comprise 14.1%. Global Affairs analyst Ibida Kwajai joins me now from Texas, United States, to discuss this weighty report. This statistic is staggering. Just how disturbed are you about it?
Thank you for having me. It's a very disturbing statistics. If you look at the numbers you just explained, it's just really worrying that the United States, since 2020, it used to be a case where car accidents used to be the reason why we lose a lot of young people. But that has been overshadowed now by firearms. And it's very common today to hear of mass shootings happening at schools, communities, in minority communities. And it's just as if the government really doesn't have a clue on how to tackle this issue. But it's a very sad, very staggering statistics indeed.
Yeah, but what do you think is responsible for this shift in trend?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, there's not been that much done in the Congress about regulating access to guns. So people can purchase guns, in some states with very little background checks done. And that is a major issue because it means that guns are getting into the hands of people that shouldn't have them. Now, when you look at the statistics that talks about the high rate of fatalities in Black communities, that almost seems as if the government has pretty much given up and just looking at having Black folk kill themselves, without really doing anything about it. Because there are a lot of communities in the United States where you will expect that there'll be a lot more involvement when you look at these numbers from the government, from the city, cities, and just trying to take guns off the streets. But we're not seeing that because if this number keeps rising, it's not a good look for the United States. But gun control is at the bottom of this. And as long as members of Congress believe that people should continue to have access to these dangerous weapons, I believe these numbers will continue to rise.
So do you think it's just about members of Congress or also about maybe party affiliations? Because apparently, for instance, we know that Republicans are, they are all for you being able to defend yourself when the need arises with, a firearm. So how do you see this impact the coming elections?
It's always an issue during elections. Like you rightly said, the Republican Party stands for, the protection of rights to bear arms, so it will always come up. And the reason being that the NRA has a strong lobby amongst that party, so they always ensure that their voices are heard through the halls of Congress. And they have a lot of members of Republican parties who are also members of the NRA, so they own guns and they don't want their guns taken away. So it will raise its head during the elections. It's always a constant topic during elections. But, I think it's something that always will require bipartisan efforts to resolve. I don't think any one party can do it by themselves.
Let's talk about the efforts, because I'm trying to imagine the trauma that the families of these children would have been thrown into as a result of the loss of their loved ones who should have a promising future. What collective effort should come together to bring a downward trend, to all of this?
It has to start, from the grassroots. There has to be a lot of education amongst the local communities. There has to be people that are interested in seeing that these numbers come down. So we can't leave this just to the government to do. Every family member also has to have responsibility to ensure they don't have these dangerous weapons at home. And when you look at the statistics between white kids and black kids, for white kids, it's responsible for suicide. For black kids, it's homicide. And you have to think, where is our minds when all this is happening? So these are issues that need to be addressed from the local community, in our churches, where we, in our schools, and then just moving up to the governmental level. So there's a lot of effort that needs to come into this. Everybody needs to agree that we cannot continue to have a country where we have the highest rate of firearm deaths compared to many developed nations in the world. It's just not sensible.
So community engagement is really key in all of this. Global Affairs Analyst Ibidola Kwajayi, thank you so much for talking to us on The World Now.
Thank you for having me.